So welcome, everyone. It's truly my pleasure to introduce this week's speaker, Distinguished Innovator Lecture Series. It's Charles Fan, who is a Senior Vice President at VMware. And VMware is, of course, a globally leading cloud provider of cloud infrastructure. And he's responsible for storage, software-defined storage, as well as a big data strategy. Charles has not always been with large firms. In fact, he's also been an entrepreneur. And he was co-founder and CTO of Rainfinity, which was acquired into EMC. And with EMC, he's also had global experience of opening the EMC China Center for Excellence, and he stayed in China, and he's also opened there the China R&D Center for VMware. Overall, certainly he's an expert in this field, including big data, and he's a well-recognized speaker. He has a master's and PhD from the California Institute of Technology, and his bachelor's is from Cooper Union in New York. So with this, thank you for taking the time to come here, and we really appreciate it. Charles, please.
Thank you, Iklak. It's my pleasure to be here. And I got my tax done, so April 15th. And I got to know Iklak about 2 years ago as we start to participate in EOPP program, which turned out to be the best program, I think, for our employees. And it's been great to be associated with Berkeley and with CET here.
This group probably doesn't know what that program is.
Okay.
So it's an executive program. So people from VMware go to our executive program, which I'm at every Monday night, basically the whole year at Seattlestown. We're going to do it twice a year. But thank you for saying that.
Okay, great. And as you can probably tell, I came from China originally. I came to US when I was 17. And I'm particularly weak with my language, both written and spoken. And so as I was working on my slide deck last night, after I'm done with my taxes, I decided, I tried to figure out what should I put on my slides. And one trick I learned is when you're not good at anything, for example, for me with English, is you try to pick as simple word as possible and don't speak so many of them. So that's why the title is From Small to Large, which could almost mean anything. but really, I think what I was trying to share with you here today is really a few experiences I had in the last 20 or so years. From when I was in graduate school and how I started with my advisor and a few classmates, our company, Rainfinity, which is a really tiny, small company. And what I learned in that experience. And then in the last few years, I've been really working in a larger corporation, a larger company. And I learned a few things there also. And there are some things that are very different from working in a small company versus working in a large company. And I'm sure some of you will be facing this choice as you graduate as well. So I can share with you what I think are different and what I think are the same, between those experiences. So that's what from small to large is. And that's probably the most words you're going to see in the next few slides. And where's the clicker? So essentially, it's dominated by pictures. So this is the first set of pictures. I went to Caltech in '95. That's almost 20 years ago, after Cooper Union. How many of you heard of Cooper Union? Okay, good. It used to be a free school, but they are starting to charge tuitions now because they ran out of money. And so at Caltech, so there were 4 of us there. We were in the same lab. And our lab was called Paradise. And it was a good, Southern California is a nice place. It's called Paradise because we were doing parallel and distributed computing. So it's Paradis. And it's a very nice place. And we were working on different algorithms and protocols, how to have computers talk to each other and stay coordinated and cover for each other and so on. And this is one typical cluster that we built in our lab. And this is during a demo time, but we also use it to play games and so on. And in '98, that was the first internet bubble time. So it was like really active in the industry. And we decided that we want to start a company too. And our advisor was thinking about the same. And it so happened the project that I was working on was in the project we were working on some new group membership protocol and state sharing protocol across the computers, and we applied it to web servers first. And that's kind of a demo we did with our web servers. And the project was called RAIN. It was called Reliable Array of Independent Nodes, which is inspired by RAID, which was invented here at Berkeley. But really not just about disks, but also creating a single, powerful, and reliable cluster of computers. And so we started a company, and the company was called Rainfinity. Is because it's based on RAIN technology, and we tried to make it scale. So there's the finity part of it. And that's how the company was started. And we were only 5 people, basically 4 of us plus our advisor for like the first year. And we rented a office space, which is like somewhere between first floor and second floor. So the ceiling is about this high, and in Old Town, Pasadena, which is a nice place, but we're lucky none of us are very tall. So we spent the first 9 months build the first version of the product, and we decided not to do it on web servers because there were plenty of other solutions for web servers, and we were looking for a niche. We were looking for something that not a lot of solutions out there, and yet there is a need. So the first lessons I learned is to look for what people need. And in this case, the internet was just starting, and the bigger companies are gradually bring their network onto the internet, and yet they need to protect their internal assets. So firewall was growing fast, and VPN and so on. But as the need for firewall and VPN grows, there are companies who are doing them, but there are fewer companies who are helping those firewall and VPN companies making their solutions scale and reliable, because those tend to become a choke point. They became like a toll booth onto the highway. So they became very slow, and we decided to apply our technology to make them scale. So essentially you can have multiple computers serve as a single firewall so that you get a much faster speed. And also you can tolerate failures, so you can lose those firewalls and without shutting down the access. So that's what we did. The first product was called Rainwall, and that's exactly being run here. And this is the first conference we went to. We bought the cheapest spot at the conference. It's actually a Check Point conference. Check Point is one of the security firewall companies. And that's how we started. Oh, really? Okay, right. So that's the that's the beginning of the company. We started in '98, and I worked at Rainfinity for 7 years, and I didn't expect to work for 7 years. I thought I'm going to be there for a couple years and become a rich guy and retire. I think I had the wrong motivation to start this journey there. And for the first 3 years of those 7 years, it was a good time. From '98 to 2001, things are going up. And I was actually still in school, but I actually wasn't doing much schoolwork. I spent most of the time in the company, and we were growing very fast. So after the first year, after we shipped the first version, and I was a programmer in the first year, and we got a lot of money afterwards, and then we need to hire engineers. So we grew from like 5 people to 100 people within like 6 months. And then we need to have managers, and then they decided that we should. They decided that I should be the manager, the other co-founders, because they think I was the worst programmer. so that's how I became the manager, and started doing various managerial stuff. And we grew fast, and we got a lot of customers. We got 1,000 customers actually using our software, and those include the largest banks and telcos and manufacturers, retailers, you name it. Everybody of the Fortune, out of Fortune 500, probably 100 or 200 of those companies are our customers, and then 2001 hit. So then the bubble. You were probably still kids at that time, but essentially there was a crash, and so overall the economy was tanking. And then Check Point at the time decided they want to introduce their own HA, high availability and load balancing features. And we were being squeezed from multiple sides. We had other partners, but there were various things happening with the other partners as well. So we almost died. In 2001, luckily we still had money in the bank, but our business was not going up anymore. It was kind of becoming flat, and all the small companies around us started dying, and our VCs were very skeptical of our future. And it was a very tough time. The only good news is I graduated that year. In 2001 is actually when I got my PhD. And it's helped by the fact that my advisor was my co-founder, so he really helped me graduated. But that was also a very memorable year. A few things happened besides my graduation. We have to fire like half of the company, not fire, lay off half of the company. Essentially, that's the only way to survive. We could just fold, but we decided we want to stick it out, and we had to let go half of the company who are very good people, and so it was very painful. Probably still the most painful thing I have experienced at work for myself. And then we have to figure out what to do, because we figure the first product is not going anywhere. And so we need to do a second one. And we need to reinvent ourselves. And so what we did is we went back to customers. We went back to customers to try to find out any other pain points that they have in their infrastructure. And we try to match what they need with what we know how to do. Because there are various needs people have, but there's also a DNA that we have as a group. And there are certain things we are good at, and there are certain things we are not so good at. And what we found, what we're good at was that we know how to process packets on the network very efficiently. As we building the firewall product, essentially we build a cluster solution of networking devices that's sitting on the network and doing things in a very transparent way as traffic are passing through us. And we are trying to see whether the same skill set can apply to the other use cases or other applications that people have. And then we found one, and that one was for storage. And that, how many of you heard of a company called NetApp? So it's network appliance. is doing network touch storage. That's the time when the NAS market will start growing. Despite the hard times, the NetApp was actually doing pretty well during that time. And people are buying more and more of their filers, which is NAS devices. And when you buy the first or second filer, they were great. It's really simple to use, to set up, and it solves people problems. But as people use more and more of them, it introduces new problems. When you have 10, 20, 50, 100, and sometimes when we went to Yahoo, they have 500 filers. And each of them is like an island, and they don't talk to each other. So you get all these buckets of data. And some of them become full, and there's no way for you to move things off them. Because if you need to copy data away from a filer, you need to shut down the access, because otherwise you get data corruptions, which isn't good. So they basically tell us, if you can create a solution that can help me dynamically move data between those filers, that I'll pay you today. So that's a problem that we found, and then we actually found a solution. Yes.
I'm going to introduce the idea that we can ask questions while you're talking.
Okay.
And could you say something about how you get these companies to tell you their problem?
Yes.
Because it might seem that they might hold back some information like that.
Right. So what happened in this particular case is that we actually talked to NetApp first. So we talked to, through connections, through personal connections, which is always helpful and important, that we got to know the CTO of NetApp. And then he was sharing with us, this is a problem that his customer base are experiencing, but it is not a problem currently on their own roadmap. It's not something they are addressing themselves today. And what they suggested us to do, and they introduced us to a few of their customers. So we were actually introduced, in this case, through the partner to talk to their customers, and they were able to share with us because it's such a pain point for them. So for the next 12 months, from mid to 2001 and mid of 2002, even though I think my title at the time was VP of engineering or something, but I essentially become a salesperson. I essentially spend more than half of my time at the customer site, hanging out with them. There are about five large customers: Qualcomm, Broadcom. Somehow the first set are mostly chip companies who use a lot of NAS filers for their simulations to run, and internet company Earthlink that was a big ISP at the time. And they have a lot of filers too. So I basically, and they're mostly in Southern California, and I lived there at that time. So I basically I get to know all of them. I became best friends with all the people who are operating those filers. And then we have two really smart guys, those two better programs than I am. So basically, there are only three of us. All the rest of the company were working still on their existing product, but there were three of us, the two really smart engineers plus myself, the pseudo salesperson. We created this little team, and for the next 12 months, we basically created this next product, which we call Rain Storage, and that's the product that allows online migration of data between NAS devices. And how we did it is we have this device living on the network between the filer and the actual applications, and it served as a transparent proxy and was able to do synchronous replication to allow the migration to occur without downtime to the applications. So that's a solution we created, and it was very dramatic because we had just enough money. So we started in the summer of 2001, and we have just enough money to last till the summer of 2002. and nobody's going to give us any money unless we do something special. So we set a GA, general availability date, of August 12th of 2002, like 8 months before. And we actually hit that date with just 3 of us. And then I actually managed to get the POs from 3 out of the 5 companies on that day, and to show the investors. And that's how they invested in us in the next round. So essentially, we were very close to death, and then the company rebounded. So that became the kind of the second life of the company. After the security space, we actually go into an entirely different space. We have to rebuild the sales force to sell into storage and build our company around this storage space. Yes.
How were you able to so accurately determine a expected date of finishing the project when so much is on the line?
Just repeat the question so that.
Sure. So the question is, how can I predict the date so accurately when so much were online? So I think we picked the date based on 2 factors. One is that's the date we're gonna run out of money, and 2 is those 2 guys told me they can do it. Right. And then because normally when you talk about engineering, they're commonly referred as a triangle, where you get your resources, schedule, and feature set. Right? So you can fix one, then you need to adjust the other 2. So in this case, I think what we have to be very disciplined is how big the first version of this product can be. Especially with small companies, you have to be very brutal in terms of limit yourself how much you want to do with the first deliverable. So we decided that we only want to do it for NFS first, where with NAS, there are typically two ways of accessing a file server. The NFS or CIFS, the SMB kind of for Windows. And we decided just to pick one because we don't have time to do 2, and we picked the easier one. So that's how essentially how we cut that, and we basically limit our features so that it's doable. And we did it in the way that we gave very early drops to those 5 customers. So for the second part of that year, I lived at customers no longer as a sales, but more as a support engineer. Essentially, they were our QA team. And they are really good people. And I think they need it so much, and they like us. And that's how they kind of tolerated a lot of the immaturity and bugs that we have. And then so at August time, essentially we have the whole group there kind of fighting for our survival to make sure they get through the finance and all that to get the PO in our hands. So that's the first experience. And then we were acquired. So we shipped the first version of product in August of 2002, and it took another couple of years for the product to really work and complete. And then EMC acquired us in 2005. So that's really 7 years for the startup. And we were sold for $100 million. It was not a huge success because we raised about $45 million of funding. So it didn't make me so rich that, and some of the investors in the early round actually didn't get their money back. The late round investors actually made some money. So it was a mediocre success. I think the only pride, or maybe the biggest pride I took from it is the fact that you don't give up. In fact, throughout the 7 years, it never crossed my mind of giving up. consider the other option. That we were always hopeful and optimistic things will work out. And even though sometimes the situation is pretty dire. So I learned a huge amount of things because first 7 years of my career, and I did multiple different roles. But I think the biggest lesson I learned is perseverance pay off at the end. So in 2005, so this was taken around 2005. This was kind of the engineering team. We cut from 100 some people down to 50 people. Then we grew back to 75 or so. And this is kind of part of the engineering team. So you notice our logo helped. So we hired some better marketing people during the process and have a better logo and so on. And I think this is right around the acquisition time that the picture we took. And then we became part of EMC. And that was in 2005. And in fact, I almost left the company. In 2005, I was 34-year-old at the time. And I spent 17 years in China and 17 years in the US at that time. And the 17 years I spent in the US were the 17 years China changed the most. It was from 1989 to 2005. So China certainly became a very different place while I was here. So my wife, and I had 2 kids by that time, and my wife and I decided we wanted to go back to China, to relearn China. So I actually almost went to Google. They hired me. They gave me an offer to lead the Chinese, Japanese, Korean search team, and I can go back to China to do so. But I think EMC successfully convinced me to stay, and I was trying to figure out how to survive in a large company, because I never worked at a large company before, and I heard all the horrible things about working at a large company. I don't know if you have heard, but at the time I heard why, small company is the way to go. But somehow the CEO of the large company, which is a guy in the middle called Joe Tucci, he is a really good salesperson. He grew up as a salesperson, and he somehow locked me in a room for 2 hours, and afterwards I was brainwashed and decided to stay. So that's another lesson to, if you want to have a successful company, hire a good salesperson. That your first star salesperson really makes or breaks your company there. So he sent me back to start the R&D group in China. At the time, EMC, which is the largest storage company in the world, didn't have an engineering presence in China. And that actually was the time 1 year after EMC acquired VMware also. So VMware was acquired by EMC in 2004. And VMware didn't have a presence in China also. So I went back to China and spent the next 3 years there. I went back to China early 2006. And I don't know if I have some pictures. So I basically found a group of people. Some of them went back with me to China. This was in Shanghai for the EMC R&D center. And then in 2007, I started the VMware R&D group in China as well, even though VMware is a pretty independent company from EMC, and it went public again in 2007. So I was running both the EMC and VMware company. I was the first engineer for both companies there. And by the time I came back in 2009, so this was 2008, So from 0, we grew to over 1,000 people in the R&D group. So it is a very exciting experience for myself, kind of to grow a larger team. And they kind of serve both EMC and VMware. You can see that we actually had a joint outing in Qingdao. So there's something nice in China that they have this annual outing for most companies do it, and you spend like a long weekend, go to a nice resort and have fun together. And that's in 2008 we did it in Qingdao, and so it was a very good experience for me. We actually hired some of the best engineers for both of the companies. There are over 2,500 people now in China between the two companies. So it's a very important part of the R&D team for both EMC and VMware. And while I was there, I'm trying to get a sense of how to survive in a larger company. It was helped by the fact I was very far away from the headquarters, so that made my life a little easier. But I still have to deal with the system and the large company, because the common complaints about larger company is that it is slower, it is bigger, slower, kind of more clumsy, and it's more bureaucratic, stronger processes. But at the same time, there are certain things, as I was there, you can only do as part of a larger company. That is very difficult to do at a small company. That you have the footprint to make a move that have the impact that is very difficult for the startup to do, especially in the area where the changes are more incremental and evolutionary rather than disruptive and revolutionary. So in those areas, it's very difficult for little guys to succeed, and larger companies can actually do very interesting things. And also, as my group scale, I think one of the tricks I learned is how to be a good manager of a larger team. And the single biggest lesson is that it's not the things you do, but it's the things you don't do. I adopt a philosophy where the best manager is a manager that does nothing. And it is not achievable, but it should always be your objective. So essentially, I have been, even though there are always things for me to do, but I'm always looking to do nothing. That's the and that is a management principle. But also, I found that in larger companies, it's also a way of survival and prosper, because you can never get everything to work the way you want it to work. In small companies, maybe if you are really strong and nasty and stuff. But in larger companies, you can just never getting things to all work in the way you want. So you have to have tolerance for the things you don't like to exist, but you try to figure out what are the things you don't want to touch, and you try to manage things that you have control over. So that's how you kind of getting things done in a larger company, and I use it multiple times as I was there. So I spent 3 years in China, kind of build a larger group in China. And then in 2009, I went through another period of introspection. The 3 years before that was very exciting. You were building a larger group, and I was constantly doing two things: hiring people and looking for more offices. So that's that was a big part of my job. And once it's over 1,000 people, then you found and despite my philosophy of doing nothing, that you find 80% of your time are spent working on operational people issues. Because once you have over 1,000, just law of large numbers of some kind, there tends to be somebody gets sick, there tend to be somebody went crazy, and there tend to be, so there are always those things that you need to take care of. And then there's very little time, actually, for me to do thinking or doing technical work. And China was still, and it's still today, a very exciting place. There's so much energy and activities happening that there's certainly a strong school of opinion within myself and the people around me that I should stay in China. I should stay in China. There are so much business opportunities that's there. But I decided to come back. So I decided in 2009 that I moved back to the US. There are a few reasons I decided to come back. There's a personal reason where my grandma actually lived in the US at the time, and she still lives here today, and she's 102-year-old now. And at the time, she was 98 or 97. And my kids, they really love their great-grandma, and I figure I should have them spend more time together. So that's one personal reason. But then on the professional side, I decided I should really find out who I am. And before that, I was always not sure who I am. I thought I could do anything. But then in the 3 years in China, I think I figure I need to tell whether I'm a geek or whether I'm a salesperson. Okay, so I had a simple binary thing, because I found out among the geeks, I'm the best salesperson. Among the salesperson, I'm the best geek. But really, you need to kind of do some soul searching to see who I really am. And I decided I'm a geek, not a salesperson. And then I think my conclusion, if I was a salesperson, I should stay in China, because there are more opportunities, more chaos, more entropy there. So I can make more things happen. But if I'm a geek, I figure I should come back here, because it's a little quieter here, and you get to do more thinking. So that's that's how my decision process, how I decided to come back here. And coming back here also means that I have to restart. So I basically had the successors over there. I came back again with myself, and I talked to Joe Tucci, and we worked out an arrangement which I'm kind of restarting a new group within the larger company. So we created a team called Aurora. By coincidence, this is actually a picture from Shanghai again. There was a building with Aurora there, but it's not named after my project. It's actually a furniture company. But we figured it was cool. That was the initial team for the Aurora project, that we were kind of start looking into a new area that we are start building, and that project kind of evolved from 2009 till now, and I kind of worked at VMware since 2009, even though there is a collaboration with the EMC part. And we actually shipped the first product, which is a database as a service product, in 2011. And that's a kind of gap between the EMC and VMware product line. And then we start introducing more big data products for VMware. And then today, I'm leading the storage and availability team, which is a new area that VMware tried to get into. And so maybe just I don't know how we are doing with time. We're supposed. Okay, yeah. So I'll skip this very quickly. So basically, an introduction of what we are doing today is a software-defined storage. So VMware I heard some of you talk to Diane Green a few months ago or so. So she was a founder, ex-CEO of a company, and VMware really revolutionized the data center.
She's joined the Dean's Advisory Board.
I see. Yeah, she was a alum from Cal as well. And we actually had quite a few Berkeley graduates who were the early engineers at VMware. It started with the virtualization technology, which is allow you to create multiple virtual computers on the same physical computers on top of the x86 CPUs. And then now we are trying to extending that virtualization technology to cover the rest of data center, storage, networking, and management. And I'm leading the storage part, which is, today when you look at storage, in particular storage for virtual environment, you buy EMC NetApp storage boxes, and those are well-engineered boxes that's performant, easy to manage, and have a lot of services offered from them. So it's great. However, the world is changing a bit. The world is changing multiple ways. One is within those boxes, it's actually no longer so special. If you open them up, they're just like cheap computers that's in there. All the nice functionalities were provided by software. But yet EMC and NetApp are charging a 60 to 80% margin on the boxes that they sell. And it does limit customers' choices. So the trend is people are using more commodity hardware, and they're also looking to leverage the cloud to provide the data and storage services. So we are observing two things. One is there is a convergence of a tier of storage into the compute layer. So there can be a converged infrastructure that can do both compute and storage right from that tier. So you no longer need to go outside to external shared storage to answer your vSphere storage needs. But at the same time, you still need a cloud-based kind of a deep and wide scale-out object storage to hold you the archives and the data that doesn't fit into your converged tier of storage. So we are seeing a disaggregation of the storage systems into a model that is running on commodity hardware, and all the capabilities are actually provided by software products, either the virtualization product here or the cloud software that you're offering across the internet. So that's the trend we are seeing, is that the storage will be increasingly offered through software and through two tiers. And in the effect is, from an economic sense, storage itself is a $30 billion market. And this is not including all the peripherals. It's just core storage market. And what we are seeing is the first tier, the server-attached storage actually is regrowing. 30 years ago, everything is on servers. In the last 25 years, because of NetApp, because of EMC, most of the enterprise storage is actually external, either as SAN or as NAS. But we are seeing the renaissance of server storage because of this commodity-based software-driven model, as well as the growth of cloud storage, even for enterprise use cases. So those two are where VMware sees our opportunity is at, because our software is already the foundational software running on all the servers. It's very natural for us to offer the storage capabilities. And we are offering our own cloud services for the enterprises. And it's only natural for us to offer the cloud storage as well. And the key is how do we get the two things to work really well together, and that can be fully backward compatible to all the existing enterprise apps. So they can just run on this new software-based storage model and no longer need to buy another arrays. So that's the disruption that we are seeing in the storage market, and that's the opportunities that we see VMware have. So essentially, that's the new group I'm leading in the storage, which is to build this new billion-dollar business for VMware, particular delivering value in storage and availability. So that's kind of the thing I'm doing now. It's actually a new game, but at the same time, it requires a lot of intelligence into thinking through how do we introduce this change to the industry. We have over 500 engineers actually working in the storage area. And VMware does have a group of very good engineers. So we're actually working very hard to accelerate, to be a catalyst to this change that's happening. So that's kind of my short, I think I spent a little too long to give a short career from 98 till now. So that's 16 years. And now if I want to summarize the difference between small and large, because I worked for small company for 7 years and I guess large company for the last 9 years. If I want to simply summarize, is I think in small company it's more like a game of running, where either you run fast or you keep running. so the and the game is pretty simple. You know who's your enemy, who's your competitor, and you know who's your customer, and you know who you are, and you just try to get there. And that's the game of running. And in the large company, I think it's more like a game of surfing, where you don't really have the full control of the environment, and it's more important for you to read the waves and harness the natural energy that's around you. As long as you make the right little shift of your body weight at the right time, you're fine. That you can, and the power is actually bigger than the power you can generate by yourself. So that's, there are many differences, but that's a simple comparison that I can see. And I think both are profound, interesting games to play. And in fact, whichever game you pick, that will be fine. And then there are actually more things in common between the two environments, and it depends on really depends on who you are, who you think you are, and your style. The how, and there's an old Chinese story about like there are 8 guys or 8 people who will try to become gods, and they have to cross the sea to become the gods. And then eight people actually found 8 different ways to cross the sea. And I think the same thing goes in your career. There are definitely more than one way for you to have a successful career. And then for me, this is kind of my own. I'm kind of halfway in my career, and this is my own learning. That's what's important for me, whether it's small or large companies. Number one is to surround yourself with the right people, with people you can learn from, with people who can do the things you cannot do yourself, and with the people you enjoy hanging out with. So that's really the most important, I think, for me. The second is that, and this seems to be simple, the power of thinking, but I actually found that I forget about it a lot. I could go 2 years without thinking. I could go 2 years with just being very interrupt-driven. Once you start working, you're just answering emails. Somebody asks you to do something, you do that, and it's kind of just being an interrupt-driven machine. But I think it's really important for you for me to pause, to find time to pause and to think. And either it is about work, or it is about your own personal issues, or it's about your career. And it's really to spend the time to think deeply makes a big difference, I think, for myself. And the third is to be patient. There could be times that you wonder what's going on, and nothing's happening for me, and why I'm so unlucky, and so on. But it's just so happened time changes a lot of things. Something I have nothing of, in 2 years I could have too much of. And the luck and chance are the same thing, but with luck, you have to give it the chance for your luck to arrive. And if you, just it doesn't happen when you ask it. It happens when you are not expecting it. So, so that is my interpretation of patience. Is give the luck the chance to show up. So, so that's kind of the things I learned. Whether it's large or small company. I think that's the last of my slides. Sorry, I'll just keep talking without breaking, but certainly feel free to ask any questions you have.
Well, I think we did interrupt you. So I think this is a good time. Why don't we open it up to questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess what is the process? You described a time in your life when you were deciding whether to come back from China or not, and whether you were truly a geek or whether you were a salesperson.
Right.
I kind of find myself in the same position.
Right.
Although I'm a lot younger.
Yeah.
And don't have a career. How did you, I guess, make that decision? Like, is it just a lot of thinking, or
Yeah. So that's a great question. So how I reason about it is that when I'm doing technical or creative work versus when I'm out there selling, in which situation I'm more tired. And I found I'm more tired when I'm doing selling. And I think that tells me I'm the other person. Because that I have to force myself more and so on. Even though I'm reasonably successful in selling also, but I just found it's more unnatural to myself. And then that's one. And the second is I think I'm hanging out more with geeks. And I'm hanging out less with salesperson. So that means I'm skewed. My view is more skewed towards geeks, even though I think I'm a good salesperson. That's because I'm comparing myself with all the other geeks, and I'm not comparing myself enough with all these salespersons. So that's another. I try to unbias my own view also. Yeah.
But so just to build on that, you will probably say, and you can say the opposite if you like, that there was value to you spending time as a salesperson, even if you don't think that you were naturally a salesperson.
Right.
And then later making the choice that you want to go back to what you feel comfortable with instead of where you were like pushing yourself to learn new things.
Right.
So, are there times when you have to push yourself out of what you want to do, and are there times how do you know when you want to withdraw back to what you actually are more comfortable with?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I am not sure I have the good answer to this because I fully agree that sometimes you do have to force yourself a bit, get to the area you're not as comfortable with, because that's how you grow. That's how I always have this analogy that a person is like a computer, right? And as a computer, you have your hardware and you have your software. And the hardware is hard to change, and you are born with it, right? But you can develop different software on top of it. And the way your hardware is constructed, certain software might run better, but it doesn't mean you cannot run the other software here. So, and for you to function well, to complete your tasks, you do have to develop various types of software to be able to do things good. So I do find situations where I'm try to incentivize myself to do certain things that I'm not so comfortable with. But when you're making the bigger life choices, I think I think you have to be able to read yourself well to pick the situations that you have an easier time to be successful. That does not mean you don't want to push yourself to the other way. So in your case, and I think in my case, I think we are lucky in the sense that we are maybe more balanced, to be cocky, in this way. And this enables our way of make a living in our world. If I was as smart as some of the other people that I know, then I probably would be more specialized, just focus on technical and do wonderful things the other way, become the other god or something. But with our type of thing, I do feel lucky that we do have that balance, and there are certain jobs that require such a balance to do. Yes?
So to build on the previous questions,
Yeah.
and now the time has changed and situation has changed in China. So
Yeah.
do you see yourself like probably now in the future going back?
Yeah.
Because like you don't have to be the salesperson anymore, maybe. So do you see yourself doing that?
Well, are you from China?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, China is still evolving. I think if I haven't been back there, my decision will still be the same. So if I have been here for the last 20 years, I haven't been back, I would still be interested to go back to experience it myself. I don't think anything fundamental changed over the last 5 years. The air became a little worse. So that that is a concern if you have young kids to whether you want to move back. But other than that, I think situation is still the same. I think the economic growth slowed down a little bit, but still the pace of change is still faster there than here. So air quality aside, I would still encourage you to have that as an option to consider, because it is everybody. Some of the people I show in the picture, many of them are still there, and I kind of recruited them to go back together, and some of them actually having a very successful career. Some of them still within EMC or VMware. Some of them actually went to some other companies, including local companies, and become very successful when IPO and there. So there definitely, it can be an accelerator to a career because I think the time constant is a little different there than here, especially for the people here who kind of bring back the education you had here. Actually, it's more rare there, so you are more valuable because of the rarity of your education and your background. So. Any other questions?
Well,
Yes.
I'll hold to this side of the room. I feel like everybody has to be a little bit of a salesperson,
Right.
regardless of what your
Right.
specialty is.
Yeah.
But coming from a different place, what did you do to get yourself into the ability to be able to do this? You said you rewarded yourself, or what actually did you do?
Well, I think every person is a little different. Even though I'm a geek, but I think there are two kinds of geeks too. So there's a geek who likes to be lonely, and one can stay quiet for a long time and get very deep. I'm not one of those geeks. So, and I admire those type of geeks. And I am the one who gain energy from interactions. So some of my better ideas come from talking to others. And I think that helps me because I do like to talk to others. And then combined with, say, when I was in startup time, I have no choice that I have to do it, and I do it. I try to do it in the most sincere way. So another reason is I think I'm not a top salesperson. I think I'm too sincere to be a top salesperson. Right. So. My trick is to be a good salesperson in my way is to be empathetic to the other side and to try to really understand what he or she is thinking and try to make them happy. I think another way of saying what you said, everybody needs to be a salesperson, because I think one of my life's goal is to make the collective sum of happiness of other people in the world higher because of me, not lower because of me. So that's one of the way of measure your contribution to the world, and I think the same general principle works as a salesperson. Is you try to make them happier, and then naturally they will return the favor to you. Yeah.
So when you initially secured funding for Rainfinity,
Yes.
what was the experience? Was it
Yeah. So that's a great question, and unfortunately, I wasn't so involved in the first round of funding. My advisor, PhD advisor, actually did most of the work there. I was so during that time, I was the engineer doing the demos to the VCs. So that's the extent of my role, and it was difficult before we actually had a product. So we first got the $500,000 through a sort of a angel funding, and then we found this fund, which is another big VC company, through personal network of my advisor. And then we got $1.5 million there. And so those $2 million got us the first year with 5 people building the first version of the product. And then once we shipped this product and had customers, our first customer was Dresdner Bank, was like a big German bank. And they actually, we didn't have a salesperson. They somehow found out about us in some news groups or some chat room or something. So and then they bought, and a few other big customer bought, and then it's become really easy. So I think our second round was led by NEA, which is New Enterprise Associate, which was a big VC fund at the time. So at the time, we actually have multiple VCs. For our second round, we have multiple VCs interested in investing in us. It was a good time during the boom, and we actually have a real product with real customers, and so that become much easier. But it was difficult as we start, and I was glad my advisor did all the work there.
By the way, what happened to the 2 people who were the better programmers?
Yes. So
You clearly did very well.
yes. So one of them still work with me. So we are still doing the wonderful VMware storage things. The other person also worked with me. Was part of Aurora project, and then my advisor started a second startup after Rainfinity called Extreme.io, and I think a year and a half ago, the other person joined my advisor's new startup, and that startup was acquired by EMC also like a year ago. so he's working at EMC now, but we are still in a circle together. So and I think in our case, the friendship you build last. I think it's gonna last a lifetime as you're going through these ups and downs together as part of a startup. But there could also be. I also know other cases where they become the worst of enemies. It's actually really important. I think you pick the right partner. If you are interested in starting your own venture, because you're gonna know each other so well. So either you're gonna stick together for a long time, or you're gonna lose a friend. So. Yeah.
Okay, so in interest of time, I'm going to thank you for coming today. And I just, before anyone comes, I want to say that I've never seen as succinct a comparison of what it's like to work in the big company versus small company. I think that's really amazing. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.